Okay, good morning. Good day, students. So we are now again in our second quarter in Practical Research 2. So this module is entitled Understanding Data and Ways to Systematically Collect Data. So in this module, we will discuss this competency. So the learner chooses appropriate quantitative research design. So I think you're ready for our next topic. So in your first quarter, so it's all about in chapter 1. So from the title, research question, etc. So now we are ready to have this chapter 2. Okay, so let's begin. So let's have first this warm up activity. So here there are scrambled words. So you will guess what are the words given this description. Okay, example number 1, to make or show connection between two things. It is, okay, what's your answer? Okay, correct. It is relate. Okay, number 2, give relevant characteristic or qualities of a certain object. Okay, what's your answer? Okay, correct. It is describe. Number 3, to note the similarity or difference between two things. What's your answer? Okay, it is, okay, correct, compare. Number 4, scientific procedure undertaken to make a discovery, test hypothesis, or demonstrate a known fact. So what's your answer? Okay, correct, it is experiment. Number 5, the overall strategy that you choose that would include the methods and procedures in collecting, analyzing data. Okay, what's your answer? Correct, it is design. I hope you got all the correct terms. So these terms are related to our topic in this module. Okay, so let's begin. So we'll now discuss research design. So quantitative research aims to either describe or determine the relationship of things within a specific sample of population. Starting your research, should choose first a general framework of your study, will provide a blueprint of your analysis and measurement. This general framework is your research design. So as you have seen in this uh, module, so research design serves as the blueprint of your a or your research paper. So this is in chapter 2. So research design will guide you in making your paper. So how will you conduct your sampling procedures? How will you analyze your data? So all things will be discussed. So in this research design. So we have two types of research design. We have experimental and non-experimental. So under experimental, we have true experimental and quasi-experimental. Well, in non-experimental, we have three. We have descriptive, comparative, and correlational. So among these two types, so commonly we use the non-experimental because so it's more efficient. So and also the time constraints. So we will not be uh, having trouble, especially when it involves the completion of our paper because it's non-experimental. Okay, the time frame. While experimental, it's intense a lot of time. Okay, so this is commonly used, especially in science projects. So if you're a STEM, under STEM track, so you're more of experimental. If you're gas, fumes, or NTBL, so you will have this non-experimental. Okay? So when will we use experimental? We use experimental, we want to compare two groups. One group is affected by the intervention and the other is not. So experimental design could be so we have these two. So A is true experimental. True experimental uses random assignment. Random assignment uses random procedures to assign people which group they should belong. Just to keep in mind that any differences made by the two groups are due to random chances and will keep any bias from the study. Okay, so from the word true experimental, so we have here two groups. So one will receive the intervention, the other is the control group, which has no intervention. So example of it is, suppose you want to determine, so if sunlight has a factor in the growth of plants, so you will try to have an experiment. One plant will be subjected to sunlight and the other plant will subjected in, or you will just store it inside your house. So then you will observe after few weeks, so who will have the who will grow faster. It is in a plant with direct sunlight or a plant which is inside your house. Okay, so that is experimental. Okay, let's have this quasi-experimental. This by means non-randomized intervention. Studies due to some unfeasible or ethical reasons to conduct randomized sampling. Each group is assigned the role due to the impossibility of choosing randomly. Okay, so the only difference with true experimental is that quasi-experimental is, so it is non-randomized in applying your intervention because due to some constraints. Okay, so later I will give example. So you can distinguish what is the difference between the two types of experimental design. Okay, and we have this diagram here. So the process of experimental design. So we have sampling, assignment, pre-test, intervention, then the post-test. Okay. Okay. Now let's go to. So when will you use non-experimental research design? So contrary to experimental, non-experimental research design does not alter a variable. There will be no controlled group. The data will be interpreted through the description, observation, interaction, or respondents. So non-experimental can be classified into descriptive, comparative, and correlational. Okay, so let's discuss the difference between these three types. Okay, descriptive. So we use this when we try to determine the statistics of a certain situation rather than trying to identify the cause-effect relationship of the variables. Okay, so again, so descriptive, so simple example. I'll just like to determine your study, the prepared snacks of your classmates. So were they like French fries, burger, or spaghetti? So you will use there the frequencies and percentages. So that is descriptive design. Okay, again, for letter B, comparative, aims to identify underlying causes of differences in a non-experimental setup and compares and contrasts variables to better understand the nature of things. So from the word comparative, you are going to compare two variables. Example, you will compare the reading abilities of grade 11 and grade 12 students. Okay, so you can do that. Comparative. Okay, so you will use here t-test or ANOVA. So depending upon your samples. Okay, so then we have lastly this correlational design. Correlational design could be used if you plan to discover a direct relationship of two variables. Okay, so example of it, if you want to determine if there is a relationship between example, your nutrition and your mental abilities. So you're trying to establish a relationship. Okay, so you will use that design. Another, if you like to determine if there's a relationship between study habits and your grades, so you can employ correlational research design. Okay, I hope it is clear to you the difference between the five research design. Okay, so let's have now the examples. Let's have first this diagram to help you in choosing the research design suited for your study. Okay, so I hope it is clear. Okay, so let's zoom a little bit. Okay, it's not. Okay, so here's the question. So it is a guide. Can you modify your variables? If your answer is yes, you will have experimental. Your answer is no in this question. The answer is non-experimental. Then, if you choose experimental, so are you planning to select your participants randomly? If your answer is yes, you will have your true experimental. If have you chosen a participant based on their feasibility and availability, so you will use the quasi-experimental or the non-randomized. Okay. Then, so you choose non-experimental. So if you're just describing, you will use descriptive. Then if you're comparing, comparative. Then establishing relationship, correlation. So I hope it's clear to you the guide in choosing your research design suited for your study. Okay, now we will have an example. So let's determine if you can determine the appropriate research design which is suited in these scenarios. Okay, let's do this. So choosing the appropriate research design. So we have here a pool of choices. So we have 5 answers to these situations here. So let's have our exercise now. Okay, number 1, you want to test if online learning is effective to grade 7 students of Santa Ana National High School, improving their reading skills. You have chosen 2 groups. One group consists of students who have the capacity to do online learning, and the other consists of those who will have to do face-to-face reading instruction. Which research design is most appropriate for this scenario, considering that you cannot do a random assignment because not all students can have online learning? Okay, so what's your answer? Okay, correct. It is quasi-experimental. Okay, why? Because as we discussed earlier in the criteria, so here it is talk about so non-randomized assignment of the respondents. Okay, so that is this falls under quasi-experimental. Okay, let's proceed to number 2. So you want to explore the prepared college courses of senior high school students of Davao City National High School. Which research design should you use if you would merely describe the percentage rate of students and their prepared college courses? Okay, what's your answer? Okay, the correct answer is, okay, that is descriptive research design. Okay, so you have already hit the clue. You will just describe. Okay, so this is descriptive. So it's more on percentage only and the frequency. Okay. Okay, number 3. So you want to test if the kind of music they listen affects the mood of senior high school students. You have chosen 2 groups randomly. Random assignment is also conducted. One group gets to listen the hard rock music while the other listen to classical and soothing music. So right after the session, their behavior is being observed. What research design is used? Okay, choose your answer. Okay, correct. It is through experimental research design. Okay, why is it? It's because here you have chosen the groups randomly. Okay, so it is through experimental. Okay, so let's go to number 4. You want to measure the level of confidence of young students and discover if it has relationship to their oral performance in class. Which research design is the most appropriate to use? Okay, choose your answer. Okay, correct. It is correlational research design. Okay, so it's very clear. This keyword relationship. Okay, you're going to establish relationship between oral performance and confidence level of the students. Okay. Okay, then number 5. You want to compare the level of environmental awareness of senior high school students from a school in a rural area with the senior high school students So living in the urban area. Okay, so what is the appropriate research design for this study? Okay, choose your answer. Okay, correct. The answer is comparative research design. So it's very clear. You're going to compare the environmental awareness of the students living in urban and rural areas. So I hope it's clear to you now the difference between the five research design presented in this module. Okay, so here for another activity. So try so you review your chapter 1. So you write here your state of the problem and your purpose of study. Then right here, so what could be your research design for your study? Okay? So I hope it is clear to you. So you go back to chapter 1, review your paper and your group activities. Okay, or group project. So then answer this part. Okay, so then let's remember this. So I hope you recall these things. Okay, so you just screenshot this. So these are the key terms or concepts in our discussion today. Okay, so I hope it is clear to you. Then let's have this activity. Let's test ourselves. Okay, are you ready? So instruction, read the stations below. Choose the appropriate research design for each scenario and justify what is appropriate to use. Choose the letter of your answer. Okay, number 1, Maria is very fond of potted plants. However, she observed that her snake plant outside is healthier than her snake plant inside. She wants to test if the sunlight could really affect these plants. So she paired two plants with the same condition and treatment, except that one plant which she have chosen randomly receives more sunlight than the other. So what research design did Maria use? Okay, so choose among these four choices. Okay, what's your answer? Okay, the correct answer is, let's read the choices first. Okay, letter A, Maria used true experimental because she had two variables where one variable was manually chosen to undergo intervention. She tested if sunlight affects the growth of her plants. And letter B, Maria used quasi-experimental design because she had two plants as variables, but Maria could only use snake plants and not any other plants. Okay? And for letter C, Maria used correlational because she tested if sunlight has any relationship with the growth of plants. Then D, Maria used true experimental because she tested the truth behind the slow growth of snake plant. Okay, the correct answer is letter A. So Maria used the true experimental research design. Okay, so I hope it's clear to you. Okay, number 2. Josh wants to know what kind of gadgets do grade 3 pupils already use and how frequently they use it. So Josh decided to have a survey among grade 3 students with the consent of their parents. So what research design did Josh use? So A, Josh used comparative design because he compared the grades type and the types of gadgets used by grade 3 pupils. Letter B, Josh used comparative design because he compared how often grade 3 students use their gadget. Letter C, Josh used descriptive design because he aims to describe the type of gadgets grade 3 students use and how frequent they use it. D, Josh used descriptive design because he described the attitudes of grade 3 pupils when it comes to using their gadgets. Okay, what's your answer? Okay, the correct answer is letter C. Okay, so it's more on description only. Okay, so Josh used descriptive design because he aims only to describe the type of gadgets used by grade 3 students. Okay, so I hope it is clear to you the reason of the correct answer. Okay, let's go now to last number 3. So you want to know if the hours of study have a relationship with your classmates' scores in math. You send questionnaires about their study habits and gather information of their scores in math. So what research design did you use? Okay, letter A. I used comparative design because I compared my classmates' scores in math and how long they study. B. I used correlational design because I have studied if there is any relationship between my classmates' scores in math and their study habits. C. I use descriptive design because I only describe their intelligence through their scores in math. D. I use correlational design because I have discovered that their math scores have relationship with their attitude. Okay, what's the correct answer? Okay, the correct answer is letter D. Okay, so why? Because you're here trying to establish relationship between study hours and the math scores. Okay, so I hope you got all the correct answers in this activity. Okay, so in this topic, so I would like just to show. So this is found in your research project. So this is in chapter 2. Okay, so let's have chapter 2. Okay, so this is the part of research design. Okay, so in this part in your research, so you will just describe here what is quantitative research, what is your design. You explain here why your study uses that design. So this is an example of your the format in having that part in your research paper. Okay, so just like in the study, he chooses the correlational design because it's uses the relationship between the variables and statistical analysis. Okay, so again, so how does he determine this design? So you can go back to your research question. Okay, so let's go back. Let's check here. Okay, so in here, so this is the fourth question. So take note, it talks about significant relationship. So it talks about relationship. So therefore, your research design is correlational. Okay. Then another thing also. By the way, this item number 4 it falls in inferential research questions. So I think we all discussed already the types of research question. We have descriptive and inferential. This 1 to 3, this is more about descriptive. Okay, question. While in number 4, this is inferential. Okay, so here we use descriptive correlational research design because we have this set of questions. So as you can also see in number 1, we have here this demographic profile. So if you answer this question, it's more about on percentages and frequencies. Okay, so this is more about description or descriptive. So in this study, we use the descriptive correlational research design. Okay, so I hope it is clear to you how to make your chapter 2 under methodology. So the research design. Okay. So if you have questions and clarifications, so you just PM me in my Facebook account. Okay. So I hope you learned something in our discussion today in research design. So our next topic would be sampling procedures. So you will now determine the appropriate sample size needed for your study or in your when you conduct your survey later. Okay. So have a nice day and God bless.